In this final tutorial video, I'm going to show how we can actually change the dimensional effect or watermark effects techniques. So in the past, I was using text, but what I'm going to do now is show you how we can do that using patterns. So it could be like logos, and let me just hide some of the other things out of the way so it's not as obvious. Nothing's going to really hide what I'm doing. So first of all, we'll work with the dimensional effect. So we're going to pick up this design. Now, our designs, as I've explained in the past, they're multi-layered palettes that basically combine the metallic effect with the CMYK. So what I'm doing is I'm selecting the actual layer inside Illustrator, and I'm going to open up one of our decorative palettes. So we actually came out with a range of patterns called Pattern FX. So we've got 2 volumes available. These are additional purchases for the ColorLogic system. They retail at $99. With inside there are 20 different patterns, and each pattern has a different type of effect. So for example, we have the pattern as a metallic, we have the pattern as an embossed plate, so that's great for doing like micro embossing or embossed separations. We have the dimensional effect pattern, we have a varnish pattern, so this is great for customers that have things like the clear toners on like the digital presses, or want to output a varnish separation for doing an offline spot UV varnish, or for things like Scodex. And then we have the pattern as a watermark and the pattern as a watermark effects plus. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different effects for each pattern, and you can combine these and change them as well. So for example, I could create a pattern as metallic with an overprint of varnish and emboss it at the same time, and then we can even edit it further. So let's just explain about what we can do. So let's just work with the dimensional effect, because that's what we're working with on this column here. So I'm just typing in the start of dimensional effect, and that will then show me only the dimensional effect colors and patterns. So I'm going to go through and add some effects, and it's really just a case of choosing what patterns you want. Oops, if you select the right layer, and let's have that one. And as you can see, it's very quick and very easy to apply those patterns, and I'll explain about what's happening. That one, and this final one, that one at the top. Okay, so what's happening here is it's automatically creating a knockout separation of metallic and non-metallic areas, automated. Now each one of these patterns can then be edited further. So you select the layer with a pattern on it, and if I wanted to, I could rotate that pattern. So it's important here to turn off the transform object, otherwise you're going to rotate the actual box. All we're going to do is rotate the actual pattern itself. So for example, a 45-degree angle. So I've now kind of changed that pattern again, which is cool. What I could also do is I could take, say, this pattern here, and I can apply another layer on top of it. So at the moment I'm using this one here, which was number 17. So if I put number 17, and let's see what effects we've got. I could put a varnish plate over the top of that. So now I've got varnish, in this instance, going in between the metallic. So I've got metallic here, then I've got a varnish separation. And you can go and change this as well. You know, if I wanted to actually rotate that varnish, I can do so. So now I've got a metallic area with an interlocking varnish over the top to create something completely new and crazy. So the great thing about the ColorLogic system is it empowers the designer to be able to have the freedom to choose these effects. Things that you can't do at the DFE or the RIP, something that you cannot do with a spot color system, and something you can't do with an automated profile-based color management system at the press. Which, don't get me wrong, they have their own purpose for all those different types of techniques of what you can and can't do, but unless you've got the creativity with the designer, we think that it's pretty much wasted, really. You've got to give the freedom to the designer to do these effects. So let's hide those out of the way, and let's finish off with the watermark effects ones. And I guess you probably understand the way this is going to work. It's very simple. I'm going to use a different palette this time. Let me go with, we have another pattern effects palette, so I'm going to use a second palette. So this time I'm going to use watermarks, This time it's showing me twice as many because we've got Watermark and Watermark Effects Plus. See? Okay. Right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go up here and I'm actually going to pick and apply my effects. So I'm going to choose this Watermark Effects. I'm going to use that one. Oops. This one. 31, and it doesn't look like much is happening, but actually you'll see it be more apparent once I show you the separation that's been created. Okay, so let's turn off the CMYK so you can see that a little bit better, and you'll see in there it's embedding these patterns into that metallic effect, so those patterns will appear and disappear as you move the angle of the print. It's a great way to be able to subliminal effect into those different designs. Now let's just bring back the entire design, and now let's have a look at that again. We're going to save that as a PDF, and we're going to visualize that in the FX Viewer again. So now we take that file, because we've made some edits, re-drag that back into FX Viewer. It's going to reprocess that file, and from there we should then be able to see it on the screen. Now, one thing you will realize is that it looks very strange, like there's an error, and that is because when you're working with this FX Viewer, it needs to have a PDF X3 file format for patterns. It's just because of the way the rendering engine handles overprint and transparency from Illustrator. So I wanted to show you that because that's one of our common questions that get asked. It is explained in our Pattern Effects user guide and also in our FAQs. So all you have to do, I'm going to do Save As. This time we'll do the PDF. I'm just going to overwrite that with PDF X3. So at the moment I was doing the press quality, PDF X3 that has a flattened transparency option inside there. Close that down, and now when we view that file in the FX Viewer, it should show us the file correctly. Just let me open that up again. So it's going to render that file as it did before. It'll pop up on the screen, and now you can see the patterns correctly.